Good morning, people. I hope you can all hear me. I am just going to take you through how the Zoom call is going to progress. First, we'll start with introductions. Everybody will introduce themselves and what they do. And then after, I will go through a session where I will ask you questions that each one will have a chance to respond to. And after that session, I will open it up to the people who are on the call to see if they have questions. And after that, we'll end it. Yes, so that's the progress of how the Zoom call, of how the webinar is going to go. If you have any questions, you can please ask me before we officially start in the next few minutes. None. Okay, that's fine. So we shall be starting in 2 minutes. Yeah, we'll start with Maria introducing herself, then SCP, and then, yeah, the third person. Okay. I think I'll start because I'm the host, then Maria will go next. Yeah. Okay, it's 11 sharp and I will be starting with the introductions right now so that we keep time. My name is Rita. I'm a junior associate with corporate advisory at Simbel Advocates in Tinder. And yeah, I will be host for this. I'll be your host for this webinar today. Yeah. And the topic for our webinar is the role of the police in a democratic state like Uganda in this instance. Yeah, so we're going to have our panelists introduce themselves and then I will take it on from there. Okay, over to you.
Is it me to start, Madam Rita?
Okay, you can start.
Okay, glad,
yes.
Glad being invited for this webinar meeting. I am Assistant Commissioner of Police Muleterwa Anatoli. I am the Commissioner for Community Policing Uganda Police Force. I wish to express my sincere thanks for the invitation. Although this invitation was for my boss, Assistant Inspector General of Police, Hassan Kasinje, the Chief Political Commissar, who unfortunately, due to other state duties, he directed me to step in for him. I hope I will not meet your expectation in as far as talking about the role of the police in a democratic elections concerned, and especially on timing immediately after the exercise. Let me wish to thank you, especially for inviting us and inviting me in particular, and also wish well my fellow panelists on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, SCP. We are so happy to have you, and yeah, we cannot wait to enjoy this conversation with you today. Yes, please, next panelist.
Rita, you really have to say so and so introduce yourself, because we will just be in a state of circles. But good morning, everybody. My name is Maria Alesi. I am a human rights and development consultant, a political junkie, and I like to live my life the best way I can. And I'm excited to be on this call and hope to learn and also share great knowledge and experience from the other panelists, but also everybody on the call. Thank you very much, Rita.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Maria, for accepting our invitation, and we are so happy to have you as part of our panelists. The last panelist will have him introduce himself if he's on the call right now.
Thank you. I would also reiterate the advice by Alesi that you should get the names of the panelists by name and directly refer to them to avoid confusion going forward. I am Kiiza Eron. I am a human rights lawyer and a human rights defender. I'm ready for this conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Eron, for your concern, and thank you for being part of our panel. We are glad to have you, and we cannot wait to have this discussion with you. We're very glad to have you. Yeah, and we're looking forward to what we can learn from each other. Yes, so I will start with a question. I'll start with Maria answering this question. Since the conversation is about the role of police in a democratic state, we would love to understand what democracy means to you and what you basically understand from it. Yeah, and then we'll have ACP Anatoli go next and Mr. Kiiza Eron last. Again, what does democracy mean to you?
Okay, thank you very much, Rita. For me, democracy means the will of the people, that the people must be able to have a say in the way that they are governed, but also be able to hold the people whom they have entrusted with this power accountable without having to go through very many hoops and turns. So for me, that's what democracy actually means for me.
Okay. Yes, please, Mr. Anatoli.
Wow. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for bringing me on board in the discussion on this topical issue. In my perspective, democracy may mean to me the participation, the desire for each and every one of us to express him or herself, the need to seek for support and cooperation with others, in ensuring that you are heard or you are felt or you are served in the perspective of your aspirations.
Yes. Mr. Kiiza Eron.
Thank you very much. My conception of democracy is that it is a form of governance that is underpinned by all respects: one, human rights; two, rule of law; and generally good governance. Yes, that will necessarily entail civic participation that's not just perfunctory, but is meaningful. To understand the democracy, you must also understand what it is not, especially when you live in a country like Uganda. Democracy is not partisan policing. Democracy is not illegal detention, whether by police, military, or any other authority. democracy is not brutalizing Ugandans. Democracy is not cracking down on peaceful and armed protests for whatever reasons. So when you understand what it is not, and having got an iota from the panelists of what it is supposed to be, then you get a clear picture of where we are. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Mr. Kiiza, given that you've given us the things that democracy is not, do you think that right now in Uganda, democracy is being exercised to its fullest response, to its fullest, and also do you think that the police has played a major role in exercising it?
I must say that going by the very parameters we outlined above, Uganda is simply not a democratic state. It is appropriately defined as a military dictatorship.
Yes.
Certainly, the police has played a leading role in sabotaging democracy in Uganda, again, for the reasons I earlier mentioned. They don't want Ugandans to participate, even if peacefully. They break up peaceful rallies, even people demonstrating against environmental degradation. For example, Fridays for the Future, young students keen on climate change issues, they arrested them. People demonstrating against Koima Sugar. You may even think that in politics they are excited, clearly they are. You understand why they are partisan, but what about issues of basic socio-economic rights, like Koima Sugar, like environment? Why do we see land grabbing? Why is police a central figure? Why is police being used to grab people and enforce evictions? So police has played a major role in undemocratizing the state that we call Uganda. And certainly Uganda is not a democracy because we have just emerged. In fact, we have just survived the most violent and militarized and securitarized election of modern times.
Miss Maria Alesi, I would love to hear your opinion on what Mr. Kiiza Eron has just aired out, and then after I'll have ACP Anatoli contribute to this some conversation.
Thank you very much, Rita. I do agree with Eron on everything that he has said. But just to add on to that, it's for us to understand the history of policing. That I'm very big on foundations, because I think foundations determine where an institution, where a person, or where society goes in general. So to understand the history of policing is to know that policing really started at the point of slave trade, when Black people were working on farms in the USA, but also in parts of Europe. And then because policing was created to ensure that the slaves continued working, we also imported that into our countries at the point of colonialism. So when we were colonized, they created a policing system that was really created to ensure that the colonialists' interests were guarded vis-a-vis those of the citizens of Uganda. So we see that structure continue to replicate itself, because the role of police, at least as stated by the Constitution, is to maintain law and order. But it's also for us to understand what is law and order and who determines law and order. I come from a school of thought where I think it's time for us to rethink, restructure, and recreate police, reimagine the idea of policing. Actually, the thing is to abolish police, but to rethink the idea of policing, that is this current system actually working? And like I mentioned in the beginning of my submissions, that for me, democracy centers people, not institutions, not governments, not anything. It must center people. So if we have a form of policing that doesn't respond to the needs of people, because currently what we have is police coming down to the people as opposed to people informing the way policing is done. And it's understandably so. The things that Eron raises are only a product of the foundation upon which police was created. That's what I can say for now, Rita.
Thank you so much, Miss Maria Alesi. You've raised very many interesting points, especially on the foundation of police, that most of us did not know. So ACP Anatoli, these are very interesting points of views, and I cannot wait for your response to our two speakers, Mr. Kiiza, Eron, and Miss Maria Alesi. Please.
Madam Rita, thank you.
Yes.
And thank you very much, my fellow panelists, especially on sharing your views about the role of policing. Maybe, Madam Rita.
Yes, sir.
I think before we can be able to apportion what or when, where, can we understand the mandate of the Uganda Police Force?
Yes, please.
The source of the power of the police.
Mm.
And when does the police do what my brother Eron is alluding to?
Mm.
First of all, I must thank my sister, Alesi, because we have ever interacted with her. And I think partly her history, which she's sharing with us about policing is good. But maybe we have had 3 forms of policing, which we need really to understand before I really come to the day-to-day mandate of the police.
Okay.
Because the police we are talking about started in 1899 and was formally established here in Uganda in 1906. But you want to tell me that before that time there was no police? We had a policing system which was based on traditional mechanisms of work. And that's why I'm saying that the participation of both the led and those who are leaders is very fundamental in policing. You realize that the kind of policing at that time during our great ancestors was participatory. Each and every one was allowed to participate and take decision and therefore be part of the decision making and also be part of the implementers of that matter. And the greatest emphasis on that kind of policing was prevention. Prevention is better than cure. So I don't want to go into that depth because it is a very rich form of policing. Then all of a sudden we had the second kind of policing, that is the policing during colonial time, which was introduced in 1899. And therefore it abolished all the good attributes of where the community participated and enshrined, endeared the security attributes themselves, and also were fully in participation and cognizant of the role of their role. That kind of policing desired, first of all, cutting off all the linkage between the led and the leaders. It was centralized, and their main role was basically to enforce and enforce and enforce. And enforce without sensitizing, enforce without making the community aware. Now, the third form of policing is our policing after colonization, 1962. What happened? There was a little effort to realize this kind of formal policing, connect it with our traditional, connect it with the colonial and the post-independent. And therefore, people have found themselves in a guesswork system. First of all, like they are debating, what does the police do? What does what do? And so on and so forth. So basically, to come now to the kind of formal policing I'm talking about, this is the policing which is enshrined in the Constitutional Article 211, which establishes the Uganda Police Force, which says there shall be a force called the Uganda Police Force, which definitely has values therein. The role of the Uganda Police Force: 1, the protection of life and property. 2, the maintenance of land order. 3, the detection and prevention of crime. And 4, and above all, which enjoins all of us, is that the Uganda Police Force shall, not will, nor may, but shall cooperate with the population generally, the armed security forces, and the local leaders in fulfillment of that mandate. Now, while debating the topic, therefore, we just don't need to be happy with the words to start away and so on and so forth. We need to find ourselves. If the police is to maintain law and order, to whom does it maintain that law and order? 3, the detection of crime. Many a time, Rita, I always find so many boggling issues, especially on people when they want to apportion blame. The police has done this. My dear friends who are on this platform, we only come in when certain incidences have happened. But because we have realized that this is more repugnant through the department that I head, we are now trying to endear and enjoin the police to the community by calling upon all of us to work together and prevent whatever must happen. I mean, whatever has to happen that we need to take care of. Now, in the 4 concluded election, Eron is putting a lot of issues there in. But before that, let's look at the level of preparation. In 3 stages. We have the pre-election stage, the elections, the campaign stage, then the election process, and now we are at the post-election stage. That has culminated into all the other 3 being taken over. The whole thing is, one thing which touched me from Eron's statement is that the police is brutal. I don't know whether my brother Eron understands or doesn't understand that the police comes from the community. The police has to work with the community, and the police are also human beings who, in most times, while we desire to respect the fundamental rights of others, the Constitution is very clear. As Goody has said, is a human rights advocate. I don't know whether in the Constitution there is any chapter or any article or any section or any paragraph of the law that segregates the police from enjoying their rights being observed. If this is not so, then can we really endear working together by each and every one of us, respecting the fundamental rights of others? I thank you.
Thank you so much, ACP. I would really love to listen to Mr. Kiiza Eron's response to what you have said, especially with the role of police and the points he raised on what they did during the former election.
I would start with the last comment, which I agree with, that police enjoy the same rights and responsibilities that accrue to other citizens of the country. I would add that for any person to be a good policeman, he must first of all be a good citizen of Uganda. And until Uganda Police becomes a responsible corporate citizens, then it will not be the kind of ideal police that is envisioned by the Constitution in Article 212 and the Police Act in the relevant section that creates the mandate, which is an operationalization of the Constitution. So yes, policemen certainly deserve, have, and are entitled to basic freedoms adumbrated, for example, in Chapter 4 and all other citizens entitlement. And that's what we are working for. We want police to be respected. But police will not be respected if they don't respect the Ugandans, their human dignity. For as long as policemen are still detaining Ugandans beyond 48 hours as a matter of routine, not even like it's an exception, it has mentioned, happened here, no, it's rampant, it's common knowledge. The things I'm talking about too, even state institutions agree to them. The Court of Appeal has taken judicial notice of police brutality. The Uganda Human Rights Commission acknowledges this brutality year in, year out. And the press, the traditional media, which is very conservative, is awash with the plethora of examples about the things I was talking about too. Cooperation is a constitutional command between police and the civilians. That's very important. And again, for it to happen, we need a police that's ready for it. But you're not going to cooperate with Ugandans when, if they want to protest against a certain policy, against a certain decision of government, you just give them disproportionate violence. No, police is not supposed to be violent unless there are exceptional circumstances. whereby that violence should be proportionate to the threat, it should be legal, and it should be necessary. And that's why I was giving the example of environmentalists. That's clearly unnecessary for you to start attacking environmentalists just because you are wearing the police uniform and you want to spoil even the image of some good police officers. Of course, they are there. There are many police officers who mean well, and even the worst police officers do not do wrong things every day, or they have good days at office. That context I must provide. It's just that because you people hold authority, you have big powers embedded in our constitution, and also you have carrying guns, you are occupying public offices. The mistakes you do cannot be like the mistakes I do. The mistakes you do result in loss of life, in loss of liberty, and in a general atmosphere of oppression for the country. About elections, police knows how they handle the elections. They know that whether they were partisan or not, they know whether they treated power and Bobi Wine the same way they treated other contestants. I don't really want to belabor that point. About the mandate, it is clearly explained in the Constitution: protect life and property. You don't protect life and property by destroying them. If you engage as police in forced evictions, like in Chijandongo, like in Mubende, like in Bukedia, like in northern Uganda, you are destroying property, you are evicting people, you are depriving people of livelihoods, and that is a wrong way of misunderstanding protection of property. And also you're jeopardizing people's lives and livelihoods. If you cooperate in torturing Ugandans, I handle a plethora of cases whereby even after the military has tortured people into vegetative state, they drop them into your police system, and you also drop them into court, and so on. So those are examples whereby the torture is not by police itself. Military state house anytime can go and pick a Ugandan from any police station without even signing for them. I have examples, including Rita, the one who was beating Museveni's effigy. So what crime is that? And why did you surrender him, for example, to military without even writing anywhere? So we speak about things we see every day of police misconduct, and I think the honorable thing for any police officer to come on this Zoom to do is to come, one, apologize. Second, they advise their officers to avoid this torture. One, because it is illegal. Two, because it is unnecessary. And thirdly, it does not work. It cannot get you intelligence information. It cannot help you to fight crime. It cannot help you to do anything that you are supposed to do. But of course, it can do the wrong things. It can help people to abuse police to recover debts. It can help some generals to grab land, especially at counter stations, and it can lead to loss of life. If that's what some members of police want, those things can be achieved. But protecting life and liberty, preserving law and order, no. You don't do that by defying court orders. I think if there's something specific I've not answered, I would like to be reminded. But I think in summary, I would say that I strongly disagree with most of the statements uttered by Muleterwa. Thank you.
You're welcome. Miss Maria Alesi, I would love you to comment on the point of police brutality, especially in, do you think that there are checks and balances that have been established for the police? In the case of the brutality, we have had Mr. Eron Kiiza speak about, and do you think it's possible for these checks and balances to be established in Uganda? Or we should just go with abolishing police like you previously had suggested?
So Rita, everything works in context, right? And like Eron said, that like Eron alluded to, that the context within which we are working does not allow for certain things to actually happen. Currently, there is no space where police is actually accountable to citizens. And this speaks back to the point that I raised on my understanding of democracy and what's important for me in any conversation around democracy and policing. And also, I just maybe at this point want to clearly state that for me, policing and police are really not the same thing. That police is an institution and policing is the art of ensuring that societies are safe. But that does not really have to go through the current institution that we have established, not only in Uganda, because this problem is not a Ugandan problem. It's a problem in Kenya, it's a problem in Tanzania, it's a problem in Nigeria, it's a problem in every colonially established state, at least from when you pay attention, South America, everywhere. If you pay attention to what's happening in Myanmar, it's really the same thing happening everywhere. So the problem is, the actual problem is the structure of police, how police was created and what it serves. So back to the question of accountability and whether we can be able to achieve proper policing in Uganda today, my answer is going to be no, because there is a context in which policing is happening. And like Eron said, there are good people within the force. There's no debate on that. But you see, good people within a broken structure make progress, but very little progress, because the structure will always stifle them. They will get to a point where they know that this is the right thing to do, but because of the way the system is structured, they will also get punished for doing the right thing. So many of them will either keep quiet about it and let the other people who are completely in line with the structure do what it is that they want to do. So until we fix the bigger governance question of Uganda, because police is accountable to the Ministry of Internal Affairs. The head of the Ministry of Internal Affairs is appointed by the president of Uganda. So at what point, honestly, is it going to work out? If you even went back to the EC, you remember Robert Chagulanyi wrote a letter to the EC complaining about the way police was treating him on the journey. There's nothing none of these institutions can do, because the fundamental problem is the structure of our state, and our states did not change after colonialism. They just replaced things, that where there were white people governing, it became black people governing. But the structure of brutality, the structure of violence that was embedded within our colonial states still exists today. So you have an elite ruling class whose interests must be protected. When Eron was asking about environmental activists, the question you must always ask yourself when you see police behave in a certain way is, whose interests are they actually guarding? Because on the things that matter, when Robert Chagulanyi was going to Kalangala, the amount of deployment, the quality of machinery that was pulled out is not the same quality of machinery when I lost my car and needed police to respond. And yet as a citizen, police should be responding at that level for everything serious. And so we need to fundamentally always and consistently ask ourselves, what are the interests that are being guarded? Because citizens are a great group of people, but citizens, as the Constitution states now, the most power we have is when we cast our vote, and which is also another whole different process altogether. But if you ask me if policing can work today, it's not going to work with the current structure. That police will not deliver for citizens. And it's not because they're not good people in the force, it's because it's structured never to deliver for citizens.
That's an interesting response. I would love to listen to Mr. Anatoli's response on the structure of police and the checks and balances they're in on the same. Do you think that what Miss Maria Alesi alludes to is truly the truth? I have an example. Last week, there is a citizen who got knocked by a motorbike in Boyogere. And the people there decided to make an example of him by putting him in the middle of the road. And they did a test that if Mr. Chagulanyi was in that area, police would have responded immediately. But since it's a citizen, police actually took 2 hours to respond. And by the time it had come about, the citizen had lost his life. So do you think that the structure of police works in favor of the citizens and the checks and balances? And are there any checks and balances to ensure that the police looks at the interest of the citizen as opposed to partisan parties and politics in Uganda? Your microphone is off, Mr. ACP Anatoli.
So, Madam Rita, is it on now?
Yes, it's now on. Thank
Yes.
you.
Madam Rita and fellow panelists, thank you very much for this opportunity. May I just call upon each and every one of us, is that the police is part of the society in which we people in uniform serve. And therefore, I've always desired this debate of us seeing the context in which the police serves the community, other than trying to identify and cause a blame game. How I wish, Madam Rita, as a moderator, that this conference is not used to raise or to raise emotions or temper, but rather identify the weaknesses, the strength, the opportunity in seeing an institution going away. Because out of the submissions that I'm getting, they seem to be fault finding.
Hello?
Hello? Out of the submissions I'm getting, they seem to be fault finding, blame game. Where are we going? Where are we building? Because really, you must understand that the police is not policing angels, nor you people who are there trying to debate about the role of police in democratic society. You're not angels. So in equal process, I would have desired to understand the basis of this, the basis of the conference, built on what are the democratic values that the police does not follow. 2, how are those excesses handled in the police? 3, what about the individuals who may be able to fault the police? I mean, to undermine the police or people in uniform. But you see, the kind of debate that we are trying to bring here is that of blame game, identifying faults here and there. Please, that is not really good for us to grow up in a democratic society or an organization like this one. Second, I would like to emphasize that there are procedures on which we people in uniform follow. Please, they are there. And therefore, it would be incumbent for people, land friends, to come and really look at, and even task us, that there are these parameters that you people set. Do you follow them? To me, that would be the center of the debate and therefore giving a direction. But you see, when you begin identifying issues of the environment, issues of, please, the police is not the line, the line agents in some of these things that you are trying to. We provide support, we provide security, we provide an environment for which we, all of us, can be able, therefore, to enjoy our roles and I mean our responsibility. But all of that said, I really like the way the debate is flowing, because Stuart Todd is looking at the police. And really, I find it very difficult to appreciate from the advocates when they do not balance it with the responsibility and right, and roles of the citizenry. Because if we are to maintain law and order, whom would we maintain the law and order with? If we are to protect the rights and whatever, can I know whether there was any policeman who contested that the police favored during these elections? Those who campaigned, those who were nominated, those who were from the community there. So please, this is what I would desire to respond on that. Now, thirdly,
yes,
there are definitely checks and balances, Madam Rita, that the police, the internal mechanisms and even the external mechanisms that the police follow. First of all, the external mechanism. We have the Human Rights Commission auditing the police action. How I wish that we would be able to discuss the flow of those audit by the Human Rights Commission. Then the IGG is also there, audits the police action. Then the intern, and definitely with the other key stakeholders, including you, by the way, our civil society organizations, you audit us, and we get those reports, like Transparency International, mention them. Then we definitely have the international, the internal one, like we have the professional standard unit that really holds up or upholds discipline of the police officers and makes us accountable for each and every action that we have to do. Then each and every supervisor at any given level is supposed to take action against the individual police personnel for any misdeed that he or she could have involved himself in, if at all it is a violation of the standards of operations. Now, that being said, you're talking about the structure. Yes, we have a very clear structure in the Uganda Police Force. First of all, right from the commander-in-chief, that is His Excellency, the president of the country. Then we have the minister, we have the Inspector General of Police, we have other structures like the Police Authority, the Police Council. Then we have the individuals, office bearers, like the Inspector General of Police, who chairs some of these committees. So definitely the structure is there, my dear panelists, that really holds each and every officer accountable. But my plea, therefore, is to look at what could be those instances, because you may not desire to blame the whole election. Madam Rita, can I know whether it was the election, whether it was the police that organized the elections? Why are we debating the police and not the different actors in the elections? Wouldn't this really be biasing? Wouldn't this be trying to skew the debate, try to individualize, trying to apportion blame? But is that how real institutions are built? No. Please, let's push the debate in a more open, more organized, and more whatever. If you say Muleterwa, it is you who has done this, yes, there I can tell you their procedure to handle me, but not the institution as people would want to discuss it. Now, going to what you were saying, these are some of the scenarios that we tend to receive from the community there, especially in relation to police response. It is true that sometimes our response towards distress call from the community is poor, but sometimes it is overtaken by scenarios that are beyond us. Take an example, a scenario happening where there is a lot of jam. However much you may call a police vehicle to respond, it may fail. Secondly, you may realize that even at the time when the person was knocked, the police vehicle which would have attended such a person is not near. So there is need to divert or even to source a vehicle on seeing how possible it can be able to respond. Now, when you bring the two scenarios, let's not always desire to juxtapose issues of political scenario or political context with the issues of accident. Accidents are never planned. Madam Rita, have you ever planned for an accident? Political events are planned. And therefore, when they are planned, it also gives an ample time for organizations to plan how to respond for them. And therefore, these two are not scenarios for juxtaposition, but rather seeing how best we can be able to improve, how best we can be able to work together with everybody, and above all, realizing that it is our role, by the way, as communities and people in uniform to ensure stability and the safety of each and every one of us.
Thank you so much, ACP Anatoli. I'm very interested in what the other panelists have to say about the points you've raised. So I will have Miss Maria Alesi respond first, and then after that, I will have Mr. Eron respond next, and then after that, maybe we can have the the conversation open to the public to ask questions to the panelists. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Rita, and thank you very much, Afande Anatoli. And I'm inclined to agree with Afande Anatoli that this conversation, of course, it was structured to discuss the role of police, but understanding that police in itself does not exist outside a certain structure. Because he's talked about institutions of accountability. Yes, Uganda has amazing laws and policies generally, cross-board everywhere. In a failing healthcare system, we have excellent policies. In education, that's not working for the system, for the citizens. If you look at the policies on paper, they are all excellent. We're even a country where people actually come and benchmark. But the question is the practice of your role in this structure. And it's complicated. I cannot blame police alone for everything that is happening, because they are, again, what I mentioned earlier, there are interests that must be guarded. And what are those interests? And that's a question citizens must ask themselves as they deal with police. Of course, to say that citizens should be involved in policing is for police to also come and tell citizens clearly, but also for government as a whole to come and tell citizens clearly that they have failed on their role, or they don't have enough capacity to deliver on their mandate. And that would also mean us talking about the discussion of taxes, because I personally believe that at the only point at which I will stop holding the state fully accountable is that the state stops taking taxes from me by force, because I don't have any say in being taxed. So if we understand, and this is the point I'm going to go down to, and this is the reason why Eron raises the issues that he raises. What are the interests that police is guarding? Whose interests are they? And it's difficult. It's difficult being a police officer in this current context. It is literally impossible to do the work of genuine policing in a time like this, because there are lots of interests to guard. Some of them are beyond the police people. That doesn't mean that for police officers who do their work irresponsibly, we cannot hold them accountable. Afande Anatoli has said that police officers are members of our community. They come from our community. We would like to see that when you're handling people who are coming out to say, we're not comfortable with what we're happening, that the way you expect citizens to see you as people is the way citizens also expect you to see them as people. That when you come to arrest me, why should I be thrown around? Why should I be detained beyond my time? Where do we even have a situation where people are missing and we can't even account for them? And that in itself is the most troubling bit, that the only way that people are going to appreciate police is if police actually starts to be fully responsive to the needs of Ugandans above all else. But as it is right now, and we're not saying that there are no systems, we're not saying that there are no structures, but the context in which we exist today makes these systems and structures totally irrelevant to the way that, whatever it is that we envision that it is supposed to deliver.
Okay, Ms. Maria Alesi, I hear you on the point of structures. As you are giving as you are addressing us, I saw Mr. Anatoli raise a thumb. So I will have Mr. Kiiza Eron respond, and then after that, we'll open the discussion out to the public to ask questions or comment. Yes, Mr. Kiiza Eron, please.
Thank you very much. I want to say that while Afande was speaking, I even made some notes, so some of you can go there. But I'll respond some of the issues again. Structures, like Alesi was saying, exist in police. Again, like Afande was saying, the question is, to what good, to what purpose are they appropriated? So we need a police standards unit that actually enforces standards in police, not just acts as a cover. We need a police standards unit that is transparent. When do we see these proceedings happening? Police is a public institution. If you're disciplining public officers, let us know who you're disciplining, how you're disciplining, Why do you even stop lawyers from representing police officers in that PSU? Do you know that violates the Constitution? And I don't agree with the idea that we shouldn't be, even in fact, we should be emotionally charged about these issues that police does, because police brutality actually triggers emotions of pain, of grief, of regret. So the idea that Afande Muleterwa thinks that we can be here discussing police torture, police detention, police misconduct in the most high school way is very elitist and academic, and I'm not that kind of discussant. We are talking about real issues of people causing loss of, police causing loss of life. So I am not going to be that detached, because it would be irresponsible for me to be detached. That's why I again want to disagree with Afande when he wants me to blame NEMA for the way they police, they handle environmentalists, when he wants me to blame EC for the way they harass politicians on the campaign trail. No. The Electoral Commission's mandate is very clear. It does not include protecting life and property. It does not include preserving law and order, nor does it even include preventing or detecting crime. That's the work of police. So when you go about it on a campaign trail, you must just follow the law, follow the letter and spirit of the Constitution and other laws of Uganda, respect the right of Ugandans, including all political contestants. But don't come here and tell us now that that is blame game. Yes, we shall blame police. It's our function as citizens of this nation to blame police for its wrongs and credit police for the right things they do. And I've already said some good people exist in police. Probably Muleterwa is one of them. The facts speak for themselves. The procedures, the most important procedures for police to follow are constitutionally laid out. You arrest a person, don't detain beyond 48 hours. You want me to come here and apologize for that? I don't. Let the person get in contact with the kin. Incommunicado detention is wrong. Let the people basically respect the rights of the people. And again, I repeat, this cooperation that is in the Constitution is not what you're doing. The Constitution does not envision police surrendering its authority to the military, to investors, or partisan policing. It does not allow you to surrender people at 2 a.m. for torture, CMI, to ISO. That's very wrong. That's very wrong. And I'm being very specific because, the latest example of police misconduct was allowing military police to siphon Rita Ferdinand away from CPS Kampala. I give specific examples. Afande Muleterwa, not to blame game as you're spinning it, but actually to contextualize this discussion and remind you and the police that this is not an academic thesis. No, we are discussing the reality of Uganda as it is unfolding before our eyes. And we respect rule of law. We want police to respect the rule of law. We want to police to respect citizens. Only then will police have itself, will police work be legitimate, genuinely loved and accepted by the population, and only then will police achieve the aims and the mandate stipulated in the Constitution and in the Police Act. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Eron Kiiza. I will now read some comments from the chat room. Mr. Eron Kiiza says, we are not discussing an academic topic, but the current reality of Uganda. The examples we give are not a mere blame game. We are talking about human rights violations, brutality, and misconduct of the police, giving live examples, and this is important. The topic we are discussing was set by the moderators prior to this webinar, and this is not the time to change it. That would be a distraction. The procedures and standards police is required to start from the constitutional provisions of Uganda, including guaranteed human rights, VIDE Chapter 4. All the public expects from police is to be as swift in responding to accidents and distress calls as they do to impromptu political or activist events. Miss Maria Alesi says, we must be angry. These are matters of life and death. And then Karen Ihimbi Zabwe says, we can't at any point blame citizens as not being angels, because that is exactly why we have police. With the multiple mini police posts, we still indeed have slow response to citizen issues. We cannot compare the response to citizens to the response to planned elections. Citizens should not be planning for crimes. Therefore, we must work on those response rates. Mr. Muhindo Jason Mutunzi says, thank you for the discussion. The police should acknowledge that some of their officers are errant and something must change. Those are some of the comments we have in the chat. At this juncture, I will give a few minutes to the speakers to give us their last remarks, starting from Mr. ACP Anatoli, and then we'll go to Miss Maria Alesi, and then lastly, we'll go to Mr. Kiiza Eron. Yes.
Madam Rita.
Yes,
thank
please.
you very much. It's good. Out of this debate, I'm learning a lot, especially the tone in which people are expressing themselves.
Yes.
But not all is lost. The only thing is that I don't know whether my debate was more of a thesis than reality, but I believe I'm more premised in reality. So one thing I needed to understand is that all is not lost, because police is yours. We come from you and we must serve you. But while doing that, we must cooperate with you. The other issue that Maria noted, that when the community participates, does that mean that the police is failing its role? I think this is out of context. Maybe we need really to bring ourselves to some of these laws that we talk. You may not be able to participate by going to do my work like patrolling or whatever, but you can participate by giving information. You can participate, by the way, the Criminal Procedure Code states out the role of a citizen, that when you see any other suspect, any other member of the community suspected in the commission of crime, you can conduct citizens' role. So that is part of the participation. But most important, when we call for participation of the community, we are talking specifically on information sharing. Secondly, it is true that whereas you have a desire to serve you, we cannot be everywhere, and therefore we need to work with you to support us in doing whatever we do in order to ensure that we enjoy each one's services. Now, all this is not over. One most important thing that I've realized throughout this debate is that there is a lack of information on some of the activities or some of the programs undertaken by the police. And partly I'll take it up because it is through my Department of Community Policing that we are supposed to raise awareness on some of the issues or activities that we take in place. So I want to promise our dear listeners that we are going to step up our efforts of conducting community policing, sensitization, and community mobilization in order to ensure that really people are made cognizant of what we do and how we need them to work with us. Then my brother Eron, some of the concerns maybe if you're interested in seeing how we can be able to act, I really want to call upon you. Let's share some of those complaints that you have against some of our policemen, especially for me as in line of community policing, so that you can see how best we can be able to respond to all of us. But this is now to all my people or my fellow police officers in uniform. I hope many of you are on this chat. I'd like to call upon you that please take cognizance of the community concerns so that we can have a torch we can flash in our activities on seeing how best we can be able to improve. But all that said, I promise that we want to work together to ensure that Uganda is ours, not yours, but ours. And how we can make it is when all of us share responsibility and support each other. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ACP Anatoli, and thank you so much for coming in and gracing us with your presence at this webinar. We do not take it for granted. I would now like to listen to the closing remarks of Ms. Maria Alesi, and then again, we'll listen to Mr. Kiiza Eron.
Where do I start from? I think we need to abolish police, because the very foundations upon which police as an institution is set up will never serve the interests of citizens. Yes, they will go out, and community policing is a great program that Uganda Police runs, but that program will never yield the results that are desired, because the foundation upon which this work is being done is not for the interests of citizens. The conversation we should move forward to having is actually rethinking the idea of policing, because if we rethink and reimagine policing to center the interests of citizens, where policing starts with citizens, then we'll not have institutions where we have hijacking of institutions, failure of accountability, failure to even just deliver on the bare minimum for the people whose money actually upholds the existence of police in this country. So if we do not rethink the foundation upon which police was created, there will never be police in a democracy. The role of police in whatever democracy it is that exists, it's not just Uganda, because I mentioned earlier, this problem is across the globe. That police exists to guard the interests of the elite, who are also the ruling power of the society. So we must reimagine police and dismantle the structure that exists. Policing as a concept is not bad, but the current structure of police will never serve the interests of people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Miss Maria Alesi. We are very glad to have had you. We have learned a lot, and clearly we are also unlearning a lot. And yeah, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. Mr. Kiiza Eron, please.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Afande, especially for the last remarks he made, because I think they are more grounded. And of course, the other fellow panelist, Alesi, whose stellar performance is not surprising, because she's always doing very well. I want to thank everyone who has listened in, and of course the moderators for this innovative meeting that you have done. It's very important. I want to re-echo the words of, or the message that yes, we need to hold police accountable. We need to bring these concerns to the institutions of police, for example, police standards unit or senior officers to the extent possible. And also, even the more serious ones, we need to address them to courts of law or human rights commission. But also we need to thank policemen who do good work. I normally see Ugandans thanking a police traffic officer who's in the rain. Yeah, to re-echo the message I started with, that yes, there are some good police officers. There is the institution, some people want to do very well, but as Alesi said, the structure is such that it will frustrate you anyway. And I think that's why she's going for the abolition. I want to give more thought before I endorse it, but of course there are reasons for endorsing it, but I'm not yet sure I want to do that, because it's not a light thing, and disbanding police, because you would need either replacement, or at least clearly we would need now to structure a new of preventing crime, because the goals, the mandate of police, as far as the Constitution is concerned, even Police Act, it's a good mandate. The problem is the extra constitutional, extra legal design of police, that it's a wrong vehicle for very noble, very good goals. So let's continue to work together as Ugandans to engage in this debate. Thank you, Afande, because I know some radio stations try to call people from police and they can't easily get them. because it is difficult to defend the institution as it is now. So the mere fact that you have been defending it is something to thank you for. And this is the second time I'm seeing you do it, and also encourage HRDs to get in touch with you. I think the first time was in some last minute organized debate. So let's work together, let's work with police, but also let's not fear to hold them accountable. Thank you very much. God bless all of you.
Thank you so much. Again, I would love to re-echo this. Thank you to our panelists for taking time off to have this conversation with us and to just spend time talking about this topic, which is very, very vital to Uganda right now. Mr. ACP Anatoli, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. Miss Maria Alesi, Mr. Kiiza Eron. From us at Symbol Advocates, we would love to give you a round of applause because we have really learned a lot, and we are sure the public has learned a lot from all of you. My name has been Rita as your moderator, a junior associate at Symbol Advocates. Yes. Again, before I close this conversation, if there are any more direct messages from the public or questions, I would love to take them off before we let our moderators go. If there is none.
Rita, what I wanted to request to you,
I would then love
Yes, we hear you, but I think we lost Rita. So.
Yes, good afternoon. This is Wanda from Symbol Advocates. We have lost Rita, but I think she's back on.
hello. Sorry, my network went off. Back to if there are any questions in the chat before the webinar ends. I don't see any questions, so thank you so much, our speakers, for coming, and I hope you grace us again with your presence next time we send out an invitation. Thank you so much once again.